Okay, so I'm on YouTube and Facebook now. What day is it? Monday. Um, so it's not one of my regularly scheduled ones. This is one of I just turn up when I can. Welcome. If you have any questions, you can ask at any time. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on the link above, you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can hire me for coaching. So, and that's all done via email because I can't take everyone on these days. So I've just been busy. So anyway, parenting questions. I'm a little bit off today. I'm just tired today. I did tons and tons of exercise today. I'm really worn out. It's like 6:30 at night and I'm ready to go to bed. So hopefully this will wake me up. Okay, so what are your parenting questions? Just waiting. I tried to answer the comments. I answered the comments on Instagram and TikTok today. I tried to answer the ones on Facebook. I don't know why. I can never figure out how to find them because I don't do my social media. I literally couldn't find the comments. Like, how do you even find them? So that's how lame I am. So I would have answered comments today. I don't usually answer messages. I just don't have time to get to all those. The reason I answer comments and not messages is comments are for everybody and messages are just one-on-one. I can't do that. You know, I'm just don't have the time. Okay. How to stop my daughter, 17-month-old, to cooperate during diaper changes and getting dressed. She fights me. Yeah, they're just going to fight you. You just have to make sure you win. You're not stopping her fighting. You're just making sure that you win. I used to say, I don't care if they've got their head in a leg hole and their arm in a, in a zipper, caught up in a zipper. So long as those clothes are on their body, I've won. So yeah, it's just a stage. They're just crazy at that age. I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. By the way, whenever I'm hired by a family who has older kids and also toddlers, I'll sometimes say, do you want to talk about the toddlers? And they always say, nah, they're just crazy. So once you've lived through it once, you kind of get it. Toddlers, just don't try to make sense out of them. Okay, so this is my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is when you want to connect and bond with a toddler, you do so in their world. You don't take them to the nail salon to connect with them. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. They just look at you differently when you enter their world. Number 4 is similar. When you want to discipline a toddler, you do so in their world. Never expect a toddler to find their inner adult and want to do these mini therapy sessions every time they're naughty. That's for you. That's not for them. They're about consistent corrective actions every time they do something that you want to stop. And then the last one is the most important. Stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are crazy. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming. I always call them crazy, but they just haven't developed sanity yet. They're not there yet. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So how can I discipline a toddler that likes to bite? I have a little mini course called Toddlers Who Bite, Hit, Etc. If you're interested in that, it goes into all the steps that you take. And they're going to do it for a while. They don't learn right away. Toddlers they're a slow burn, you know, it's kind of like teenagers. It's kind of the same thing. But yeah, they're not going to learn right away. That's why I use actions, because that's the only thing that it's in their language and they learn through repetition. They don't learn the first time, maybe the 50th time. There's nothing wrong with toddlers or teens. It's parents' perception of them that's off. You expect too much from toddlers and also too much from teenagers. So yeah, there's nothing wrong. Toddlers are my least favorite age because going out with them, I'm a worrywart. I'm really big on safety. So yeah, I was always worried about them when I took them out. Geez, they're going to run into traffic or something. Yeah. And teenagers actually is my favorite age. Okay, just waiting for your questions. Oh, here I've got one. Megan, I've never seen it spelled that way before. On YouTube, when you get up 2 to 3 boards going, do you change up the consequences for each new behavior, or can you use the same consequence for each behavior? You can. For hitting, that's a different one. If they hit someone, they have to do something nice for that person. So obviously that's going to change. But generally, you just have to use your own judgment. Does it make sense? Does that consequence make sense? You never have to change it if it makes sense and it applies to all the rules, all 3 boards. So yeah, but your rule and consequence never has to change. The kids don't seem to even notice that. I don't know why. I'm always shocked at that. They never comment on that. You can change your rule, but it's the kids' rules have to change each week. But yeah, it's amazing. Kids don't tend to point that out. I would have thought as a kid, I would have pointed that out. I would have said, my rule's changing. Why isn't yours? I would have noticed that. But yeah, I'm very analytical though. Like I would have studied that and go, huh. Oh, sorry, I live downtown. It's rush hour. Actually, it's past rush hour. Why is it so crazy out there? I have my 5-year-old son on a bedtime schedule, but she still goes to sleep in tears. How can I change that? Well, I don't know. I don't know what kind of parent you are. Their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting at that age, 3 to 12 years old. Their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting. I don't know what you're doing or what you're not doing. I don't know. Check out my boot camp course. That might be for you. One of the sections in there is actually bedtime. But yeah, and once you set yourself up as a leader, the other stuff, all that stuff tends to take care of itself. It tends to regulate their emotions because they feel really safe when you're a leader. And but yeah, work on your leadership skills. I'm really tired tonight. I worked out too much today. I'm paying for it now. Is there a difference between a consequence and a discipline? Well, discipline is just another form of that is self-discipline. So discipline just means it can, oh, okay. I don't want to get into it. Discipline, punishment, consequence, does it really matter? When you discipline a kid, you're guiding them into being self-disciplined. That's the way I looked at it. I used to tell my kids, it's your choice. If you're good, life is good. If you're bad, life ain't so good. I'll make sure of that because I'm your mom and that's my job. So I taught them to be self-disciplining. I didn't want to be disciplining my kids all the time. Yeah, my goal was to get them self-disciplining so they made good choices. I wanted them to feel empowered, that life was up to them. I believe in, who said this? Karma. I believe in karma. I used to tell my kids, what you put out, you get back. So it doesn't always happen right away. But yeah, they kind of understood that from the age of about 3.5. They were kind of self-disciplining. Yeah, don't worry about the semantics and all that. Someone said to me, it's funny, some people just, I said, meltdowns, tantrums, and they went on and on and on and on and on. Meltdown is completely different from a tantrum. I thought, is that all you've got to argue about? that was like about a year ago. They went off on me about the fact I called a tantrum and a meltdown the same thing. I'm like, wow. Shouldn't you be on a ledge somewhere? Like, wow. It's funny. Yeah, don't get caught up in all that stuff. Doesn't matter. Not saying you're like that, but that just reminded me of that. It's funny. Don't worry about it. Can you recommend resources for developing better leadership skills? I have a teen and she's an alphabet kid. Oh, did you get that from me? I used to call them alphabet kids whenever they had acronyms after their name, ADHD, ODD, WXYZ. I don't have a course on teenagers and I've never read anything on them. Like I'm self-taught. Teenagers taught me all this. So teenagers, it's all coaching. I don't have any course out there right now. Teenagers, it was funny. I just started working with a couple people, but one of them in particular with teenagers said, we're all set for a disappointing first session. Because I always say the first session is always a disappointment when you hire me to work with a teenager. I've got to assess your relationship, and that's all that first behavior board is. Or we call it an accountability chart with teenagers. I need to assess where you're at. So the first week, we don't get to anything you want to get to. It's, it's a lot of you making amends, apologizing. Is it fair? No. Does it have to be done? Yep. So anyway, it struck me as funny. We're all ready for a disappointing first session. But good, because here we go. Anyway, if you want to work with me, send me an email and put down teenage or whatever in there, because I can't take everyone on. If I don't answer your email, it just means I can't take any new clients on right now. But I'll get to it eventually. Because I don't sign anyone up unless I can see them within a week. I don't want to defer people. But anyway, and it depends on you. I send out the welcome email. You have to get everything back to me. Questionnaire filled out, forms filled out. Once I get that back, then it's usually within a week we can get together. But yeah, I don't like to defer that. Good question, Jennifer. If you get a behavior under control at home, will it help with behavior issues happening at school as well? Yes, generally it does. Children who have a leader at home, they take I call it the leadership umbrella, past the age of about 3.5 and 4. That identity that they have with the leader, because that's the one that makes them feel good about themselves. That's where their self-esteem is. You're their guiding light. They take your umbrella everywhere they go. So if they're respectful with you, they tend to be respectful with everybody. That's generally the way it works. So I'm trying to hit the see more. Okay. I'm going to read this out, but I don't really have a good answer for you, and I'll tell you why. I'm trying to ignore my 2-year-old's tantrums, but sometimes I'm trying to decide when it's a tantrum. Should I ignore her screaming and crying because a sibling won't give her a toy she's demanding? Now, I don't know how old the other sibling is. Like, is the other sibling teasing her? Or is it fair and reasonable that she doesn't have it? What I mean is it her toy and the other sibling is taking it? So I need to assess that situation. Does she feel hard done by, and is she justified in feeling that way? Or does she just want everything to go her own way? I know she's only 2, but she's got to learn about being fair and reasonable. Or else you go about it that way, but she'll eventually learn. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with that sibling. Are they teasing her? I got it. So then yeah, I would intervene and make sure she gets the toy back. You see what I'm saying? I don't know what's fair in that situation. You got to assess that and decide. Someone said, yes, it's from you. Okay, thanks. Is that me? Did I miss something? Or did I just forget what we were talking about? I don't know. Sorry. How do you handle when you ask your 3.5-year-old to do something and they say no? Well, I don't know what it is. And what kind of relationship do you have? Check out my boot camp course. It teaches you how to be a leader. I would never repeat myself. Like if a kid said no to me, if I'm being fair and reasonable and what I'm asking them to do is fair and reasonable and they don't do it, there's going to be a consequence. Sure, you don't have to do anything I ask you to do. Like I would have said that to my kids. Oh, you don't have to do anything. And they go, oh, never mind, I'll do it. Because I would pull out a consequence, you see? So they always knew that mom knew I know how to take care of business. So why would they say no to me? It didn't make any sense. So work on your leadership skills and they won't. They just don't back talk a leader. They just don't. What's email? You mean what email? It's on the link above. It'll all be on there. It's Lisa@Bratbusters.com. Be careful with that. I know someone was scamming people out of money, imitating me, and it's yeah. So go to the link. It's safe if you just go right to the link and just keep following through the link. But if I tell you something and you don't type it in right, like I think it was at Bratbuster that that's what they were using. I'm not sure. I don't know. Someone just told me about it. They got scammed on some money because they thought it was me. But yeah, I'm Bratbusters. But yeah, just go to the link. Everything in my business that I've got to offer is in that link in the bio. So I got to skip ahead because people come and go. Yeah, and I don't know why, but this is the last week, Facebook Lives have been getting a lot busier, so I can't answer all the questions. They used to be the slowest ones. Now they're catching up to Instagram and TikTok. So should spanking be used as a consequence and when's appropriate? No, it's one of those things that's like yelling. You do it because it's short term, it works. It works in the short term. You get angry, you don't know what else to do. That's why you do it. It backfires down the road though. And no one wants to do it. You just do it because, you lost it or whatever. So yeah, just no, I wouldn't recommend it. Just keep watching and you'll learn what else to do. Okay, we use your behavior board already, but one thing I'm struggling with is my son who is 5, just drags his butt. His 5. Okay, so what do you mean? Like he has to go somewhere? Put a time limit on it. So you've got to get ready by school. You have to be ready for school by 8 a.m. or something. So put a time limit on it. And yeah, he can drag his butt all he wants, but there'll be a consequence if he's not ready by the time allotted. So yeah, we're leaving. If you're not ready within 5 minutes, I'm going to put the timer on. Then there'll be no TV tonight or whatever. When there's we all learn through consequences. It's not hard. Like what I mean is, it's not discipline. You just tell the kids, you don't have to do. You can do whatever you want to do, but there's a consequence if you make a poor choice. I always taught my kids that, and they were very respectful. They all kind of understood that it was up to them. You see, you don't want to look like you're the dictator or the authority. You're just the leader. You're there facilitating all this. But yeah, it's up to them. Everything's their choice. I always told my kids that. If you're good, life is good. If you're bad, life ain't so good. I'll make sure of it because I'm your mom and that's my job. So it's all up to you. And my son used to say, I know, it's my choice. I know. Okay, actually, it's 15 minutes now. I'm going to skip over. I'm just really tired tonight. So and it's not my regularly scheduled live. So I'm going to skip over to Instagram now if you want to join me there. If not, check out the link above and you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can hire me for coaching. So check it out in the link. And I am moving over to Instagram now. I'm on YouTube the whole time. So thanks so much for joining me. Happy parenting. Sorry, YouTube, I'm just pushing buttons now. I have to push an extra button in TikTok. I don't know why. They've done something so it takes one more button push. Hello, I'm just waiting for people to turn up here. Megan on YouTube said, can you name some consequences for a 3-year-old? It's just a good deed, a chore around the house. It can be any chore. Helping you set the table, putting their dirty dishes in the sink, helping you do the laundry, wipe out the toothpaste from the sink, clear out the shoe cubby, put 10 toys away within 10 minutes. Always put a timer on everything. But yeah, it's just a good deed. Don't get caught up in it. Don't get caught up in the details that mean nothing. The consequence doesn't mean much. It's just the fact that there is one. Your favorite lady. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you very much. I'll take that as being me. It was really funny. I don't really understand. I don't know what I'm doing down here. I have someone else who manages my social media. And someone said something really, really nice. And they were actually talking about someone else. Because they had their name first and said, oh, blah, and they put their name in there, and I took the compliment. Yeah, someone told me later on. That was funny. You're so special. Why, thank you. Wasn't about me at all. Okay, so parenting questions. Hello, how do you handle crocodile tears? Just ignore them. Just ignore the drama. You don't need to attend to that. Someone said I need to have my kids say yes, ma'am. Do you believe they need to say yes, ma'am, whenever you ask for something? Maybe if they're in the Army. But other than that, no, I don't think so. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. Bedtime struggles, staying in bed. Okay, so I have a bedtime battles course if you've got a 2 to an 8-year-old. And it's one of my mini toddler course. I called it a mini toddler course, but it's not really. It's a 2 to 8-year-old. An 8-year-old is not a toddler. Anyway, so there's 2 parts. How to get them in bed, that's the easy part. How to keep them there, it is difficult. That's the second part. It's usually one night of sheer hell. And then often they don't get up again. So I always say the bigger the storm, the bigger the rainbow. Your results are at their best when you have the roughest time with them and you don't buckle. It's your buckling that makes it worse. It's going to be worse and worse and worse. If you try to do something right and then you just buckle and give in, whoo, they know they're in charge. So yeah, check out the course, Bedtime Battles. It's in the link above because it's a whole process. How do you handle preference to one parent? Yeah, they're often going to be like that. Just say, oh, well, mom's busy, go and see dad for a while. Yeah, it's no big deal. They do that back and forth. As they get older, they'll go through different phases with parents. Well, toddler will be 3 in May, won't sleep alone. What do you mean they're in charge? Yeah, if you want them to sleep alone, check out my Bedtime Battles course. It teaches you how to get them in bed and how to keep them there. But yeah, it's not easy. They will actually sleep alone. It's just that you keep giving in. That's like saying, oh, my 2-year-old will only eat potato chips and ice cream. Well, that's because you give it to them. You are the leader. Like whenever you say they won't do something, you're the leader. They're only little. They're babies, right? So yeah. My 11-year-old son is way too talkative and can be disrespectful in the classroom. What are appropriate consequences? What's he like at home? What I mean is are you a leader? Because if you're a leader, that just doesn't happen. You might want to check out my boot camp course. Set yourself up as a leader, and then that just doesn't happen. My kids would have been mortified if I had to go into class. Like, it never happened. They would have been mortified, humiliated, like in front of me if they had to go into class. If they were getting in trouble at school, you see, because I was a leader, they would have been embarrassed. So yeah, work on your leadership skills. You wouldn't believe how much power you have when you're a leader. And it's not an authority dictator kind of power. It's just they really want to please you. Between the ages of 3 to 12, that's when you're at the height of your leadership. After that, when they're teenagers, not so much. You want to pass the torch over to them, and you're just there for the backup, for the big stuff. But they'll tell you everything if you're a leader as teenagers. What to do when 3 and 5-year-olds don't eat dinner? Well, are they snacking too much, or do you have junk that if they don't eat, you'll give them popcorn later on? Then that's why. So yeah, just say this is what we're having. You know, I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor, so I don't really get into this too much, but I will tell you what I did with my kids. Most people say, well, I'm never going to do that, and I understand that. By the way, I hate cooking, but I did it anyway. I made everything from scratch, and they only got healthy stuff, and there was no ice cream in the freezer at all. So my kids knew if they didn't eat what was put in front of them, there wasn't much else. There was no ice cream waiting for them. But also, I cooked around their taste preferences, so I knew what they liked. So I knew that they liked certain things. They didn't like other things. So I did tend to cater to their taste preferences, but they weren't stubborn about it. They would try everything because I said, you have to try everything, but you don't have to eat it. But yeah, and plus I was really good at because I made everything from scratch. I was really good at sneaking healthy stuff into other things. So like I made a lot of cake and cookies and muffins. Well, you can just imagine what I threw in there, right? So yeah, it was pretty healthy. And then they'd go out and they always used to say, gee, cake is so different when I go out in the world. Well, yeah, that's because it's not full of wheat germ and seeds and all the stuff I put in it. First time my son ever had pizza when he was out, he said the sauce was really weird because it was red. Well, mine was brown because I had pureed spinach in it. So yeah, that's what I did. You know, no one else wants to do that. And I don't blame you. Gotta hate cooking. Ugh. It's a nightmare. I love cleaning. I'd rather scrub a public toilet than cook. That's how much I hate cooking. But I did it. Everything from scratch for like, because I'm really into health. Like I'm a real health nut. But you know, I'm drastic. You don't have to be that way. Which course do you recommend for 2 and 4-year-old daughters that fight constantly? Well, it's not for them. It's for you, right? I would get the boot camp course, and the 2-year-old isn't included in that. It'll make sense because you only work with the one kid, 3 and above. You only work with 3 and above. So you can be working with the 4-year-old on the behavior board, but you'll start to get it. And the 2-year-old's watching you with that 4-year-old. They're watching. They're learning from just observing. Did you know the first 7 years is when their personalities are formed, and they're not done through listening or talking. They're done through observation. No matter what you say, what you do, or what you say doesn't matter. It's what you do. They're watching you. Interesting, eh? They've actually, I used to say that, and they've proved it now. They did a huge scientific study. Some big doctor came out and said, yeah, it's all done through observation. They're not listening to you. They're watching you. It's interesting. You asked me when to drop nighttime feeding. I don't know. Every child's completely different. I don't know. I can't answer that. No one really can. People can guide you. You got to do what you feel comfortable with too. Like some parents will, I guess you mean in the middle of the night when you're breastfeeding or even bottle feeding. Yeah, some parents will go forever. It doesn't bother them at all. Other parents want to quit doing that at like 8, 9, 10 months old. You know, it depends. There's no set time. You know, it's funny because you read what you do with babies. I've got a new granddaughter. And what was it that they said? Oh, I know. Now you're supposed to wake a newborn up every 3 hours to feed them. It has something to do with your milk letting down. Well, I could have fed triplets, I'll tell you. I didn't need that. But it was quite interesting. You're supposed to wake a newborn up every 3 hours. You couldn't have paid me to do that. Like back in the day. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but I mean, we just didn't used to do that. So, but everything kind of changes so quickly. Maybe next year they'll be saying, don't do that. I don't know. It changes all the time with babies. I was quite shocked at that. You're supposed to wake a newborn up every 3 hours. Didn't know that. Do you give advice on special needs only in coaching? Yeah, I dealt with a lot. I used to work in, I deal a lot with that. Only in coaching, because it's a specialty. That's why they call it special. Yes, learning by observation, note taken. Yeah, they're watching you. No matter what you say, it's what you do that counts. That's why body language is so important. And Yeah. Yeah, if they're going to sleep, let them sleep. Listen, I'm not condoning, like I said, you couldn't pay me to wake up a sleeping baby, but maybe nowadays I would. If that's what they say to do, then I would probably do it. You know, what do I know about babies? I mean, like, health, I'm not a doctor. So, but yeah, you couldn't have paid me back in the day to wake my kids up. I can remember with my first, the second you're used to it, but the first one. And I remember it. To me, it was sleep deprivation. I love being a mom and all that, but it was the sleep deprivation that got me. I was too stupid to nap during the day. I should have been napping, but I didn't. I love cleaning. So I'd be cleaning all day and then I'd be exhausted and then I'd be up with a baby. Anyway, I can remember though, just being absolutely like out like a light because I was exhausted. And you'd hear this from the nursery, or I didn't keep, the nursery was right next to us, so I didn't keep him in our room. I did with my second one anyway. And I'd hear eat, and I go, and I remember thinking, oh God, go back to sleep, go back to sleep. Just like, and I'd try and go, oh, like I just go, and sure enough, one little peep, he's going to be screaming in 5 minutes. But I just remember that feeling, oh God, no. And that was probably about 4 hours into it. And yeah, the sleep deprivation is brutal. If you've never gone through that with a newborn, it's hard to explain. It's just brutal. Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah, the reason why you're supposed to wake them up is it's for them too. It's not just for your milk letdown. But yeah, I'll tell you, we weren't told that. Mind you, my kids are like in their 30s now, so it's just everything changes. Yeah, this is, you must be new here. 17-month-old throws his head back when he has a tantrum. Yeah, you physically restrain them. You prevent them from hurting themselves, hurting someone else, or damaging property. You still don't look at them or talk to them, though. You just physically restrain them. Once they've calmed down a bit, you can let them go. If they go to headbang again, grab them. If they do that compulsively all the time, I've recommended, lots of my clients have gone out and bought those foam helmets. Evidently, you can get them online. It's just a cheap little foam helmet that you can put on a kid. It's to protect them from that. And they start to connect the dots and they go, well, if I bang my head, I'm going to get the stupid helmet put on me, and it's strapped so they can't get it off. And they hate that thing. So that often helps too, but they don't learn the first time. They don't understand. Like, even though it hurts, they don't have the brain capacity to go, maybe I shouldn't do that. They don't have foresight. They don't have, they just can't think before they act. I prefer to be old fashioned. Do you mean about letting the baby sleep? Ah. Is no ignoring okay to put on the behavior board? That's like saying, be a good kid. It's too big of an ask. No ignoring. Have you earned the respect? Like, some parents have actually put respect your parents. Have you earned it? You can't just demand it. You can't just demand that they don't ignore you. You got to set yourself up as a leader, and they won't ignore you. That's on you. That's not their bad behavior. It's your lack of leadership that makes them ignore you. So that's your action, not them. Work on your leadership skills. Check out the boot camp course. It teaches you how to do this. But yeah, if they're ignoring you, that's on you. I remember once I was working with some kid who was an ignorer, or I think I was babysitting some kid. Anyway, staying at my place. And they ignored me because I'd said, okay, so don't get up from the table. You don't walk around with food. I think that's what it was. They got up. You do not walk around with food in my house. So I'm very clean. And it's just rude to me. So anyway, they got up from the table and started walking around with their sandwich or whatever. And I said, you sit down and eat, or you don't eat. Because I said, you don't walk around my house with food. They completely ignored me and started walking away. So anyway, then I said, you're going to have, or what did I say? Something like, oh, we're going to have ice cream or something. And then they had been ignoring me. Then all of a sudden they paid attention. And I said, so you were listening. I said, you're not getting any ice cream because you ignored me before. Whoa, were they mad? But how good were they for the rest of the afternoon? Perfect. They understand. They just react very well to a leader. Once they understand that you're not going to take any crap, they don't give you any. So it's all on you. It's on you. You lead, they will follow. You don't lead, they're not going to follow. They're going to give you sass. They're going to ignore you. You haven't earned it. You got to work for that. I worked my butt off to get respect. I earned that. It wasn't handed to me on a silver platter. You have to work for it. Okay. Okay, it's the same answer. How to react to a very strong-willed 3-year-old who tells you go away all the time. So in other words, he's disrespecting you. Work on your leadership skills, and that will fade away. It just does. Um, it just does. Think about it this way. Have you ever had a teacher or a sports coach that you really looked up to? Someone that you really liked? They had rules though, right? Right? There were rules. But you followed the rules because you didn't want to disappoint them or you wanted to please them because you just would be embarrassed to act out with that person. That's a leader. That's a mentor. That's a leader. That's the way I look at parenting. Is they want to please you. So yeah, work on yourself. We're never fixing kids here. We're teaching parents. I've worked with hundreds of kids, toddlers, delinquent teenagers. I managed to get respect with all of them. Was it them or was it me? Did I work for that? Did I earn it? You betcha. I had to work my butt off to get that. So yeah, it's all you. It's all you. Oops. Okay, I'm going to move over to TikTok now. I worked out too much today and I am paying for it now. I'm really tired. So anyway, I'm going to be moving over to TikTok now. It's because this isn't my regularly scheduled live, so I don't have to do 30 minutes in each one. And if you want to join me over there, it's Bratbusters Parenting. And if you're here on Instagram, you can check out the free behavior board in the link above, or my mini toddler courses, or my big boot camp course, or you can look into coaching. You have to email me to see if I have availability because I'm pretty busy these days. If I don't get right back to you, it means I'm not taking on any new clients. So I'll get back to you eventually. I don't onboard anyone for coaching unless I can see them within a week. That's the way I prefer to do it. Anyway, because no one wants to be sitting around 2 or 3 weeks waiting. So anyway. Okay, so I'm moving over to TikTok now. Happy parenting. Okay. I don't know why I'm doing my right and left hand. Oops. 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 That's the wrong account. I have a personal account too. Talk about old lady fitness. It's my old lady fitness account. There we go. Okay. This is from Mary Jo. I can't read your last name. Anyway, this is on YouTube. My 4-year-old grandson. Oh, sorry. I don't discuss grandchildren. I only teach parenting because if I tell you what to do with your grandson, the parents don't like it. You see, I don't teach teaching, child psychology, grandparenting. I only teach parenting. So yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm just waiting for people to turn up and start asking questions. If you go on the link above, you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can hire me for coaching. Yeah, that's it. I was trying to think. I'm just really tired today. I worked out too much, and I'm paying for it. I sometimes think, is it my age? But no, it's not. I did too much today. Anyway. Hello, followed in from Instagram. I get a lot of that, people hop from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok. So welcome back over here. Oh, do I know that name? Okay, how to handle 3-year-old getting physical with me when ignoring the tantrum, hits, kicks. When they get physical during a tantrum, you restrain them. You physically restrain them. You still don't look at them or talk to them. You're just preventing them from hurting themselves, hurting someone else, or damaging property. You're just holding them. However you want to do it, just physically restrain them while they start to get kicking in that. Hello from New Zealand. We used to ski in Queenstown because we lived in Australia for 20 years. So we used to fly down to Queenstown. It's gorgeous down there. That was the first time my kids ever saw snow because my kids were born and raised in the tropics, basically in Australia. And yeah, they saw snow. And we get off the bus at the top of the mountain down in Queenstown. They don't get snow. You have to get on a bus to go skiing. And they drive you up this winding, like there's no guardrails or anything. Oh, geez. They drive you up this road and you get to the top of the mountain. And the skiing's not great, but it's okay, right? It's not bad. And because I'm used to skiing Whistler and that, right? So here in Vancouver. So anyway, you get to the top of the mountain and my kids dove out of that bus. They'd never seen snow. And they start playing in the filthy black parking lot snow. If they'd gone 10 feet up above, there was all the pure white snow. But they were so excited to touch snow, they couldn't grasp it. And also when we first moved to Canada and we had frost in the backyard, they went out to build snowmen in frost. The grass just had frost on it. They'd never seen frost. They thought that was snow. It's funny. How would you know, right? Trying to build a frost man. I told that story a few times, as you can imagine. It's Frosty the Frost Man. Okay, so I'm just waiting for your parenting questions. 12 months, started tantrum crying when she wants things. Help, yeah, just check out my tantrum course if you're interested, but you completely ignore tantrums. But if they're only 12 months old, you can use redirection too. So you ignore the tantrum, but then you go over, take their favorite book, and you go over on the couch and you sit and read their favorite book out loud to yourself. The idea is that they'll forget about the tantrum and they'll wander over, sit in your lap. But yeah, you still give the tantrum. If you give tantrums any attention, they grow. It's like fertilizing them. Any attention is tantrum food. It's eye contact, and you can touch them only to physically restrain them to keep them safe, but you still don't look at them or talk to them. God, I haven't told this story in ages. I don't know. I don't like telling it because I've told it thousands of times. If anyone, you know the swing story? 2 different moms, how they handled tantrums. It's like that. If you're new here and you haven't heard the swing story, I'll tell it again. It's just I've told it thousands of times. Anyway, if you want to hear the swing story, it's how you do handle a tantrum and how you don't handle a tantrum. It's a true story with my son. Anyway, okay. Today she ran away from me in the parking lot. If you've got a runner, put a harness on them before you go out and clip them in when they run. And you say, no running, and clip them in. Now you have to keep them clipped on that leash for the rest of that outing. Is it going to be a fit scene in the tantrum? Yeah, probably. That's okay. That's them learning. That is how they learn. They don't just go, okay, I'm clipped in. I can't run anymore. Yeah, anyway. Okay, someone said, yeah, tell the story, please. Do you do one-on-one coaching? Yes, I do. Check it out in the link above. Okay, this is the swing story. True story. How am I going to tell this? I'm going to have to mix it up so I don't fall asleep. I say it so many times I've said it wrong. Once I said it wrong because I can't hear it anymore. So I'm going to have to mix it up a little bit. Just because when you tell something so many times, you can't hear it. Isn't that weird? Anyway, or maybe I'm getting senile. I don't know. So anyway, true story. My son was 2 years old. I took him down to the park, and there was another mom there. Now, she was new in the neighborhood, so we hadn't met yet, but I'd seen her around. You know how that goes. Watch them move in. We're all looking like, oh, new neighbors. So anyway, she was down there. She also had a 2-year-old little boy, and there were 2 swings, 2 moms, 2 2-year-old boys. So we both put our little boys in the swing, and we start, hi, I'm Lisa. You know, we're chatting away. And then the boys they were pointing to the other swing, and we're like, okay, well, let's just switch them. Who cares? We just wanted to chat, right? So we went to switch them. They both started having a tantrum right away, like same time, for no reason. We would have switched them. Anyway, they're nuts. They're just 2, they're toddlers. So here's what she did. She took her little boy over to the bench and she sat him down, and he's having a fit, right? She's talking to him the whole time. She's saying, Mommy loves you. All you had to do, she's doing the mini therapy sessions. In other words, she's fertilizing that tantrum, fertilizing it, trying to reason with a 2-year-old. Anyway, they're not about mini therapy sessions. I know that's really common right now, but it's absolute garbage. It was invented to make the mom feel good about herself. Has nothing to do with the toddler. It's feeding the mom, not the toddler. Anyway, so this tantrum went on for about 20 minutes. Then this is what and I was watching her when this happened. The tantrum stopped and he got the hiccup cries. He's going like that. Now here's what she did really wrong. So she'd been feeding the tantrum the whole way through. That's why it went on for 20 minutes. Then it stops, and then she ups it. She does more therapy. She discusses, if you just asked please, you wouldn't have, she's doing the therapy session. This kid, what did he learn about the tantrum ending? Absolutely nothing. He's going to be tortured no matter what. If the tantrum ends, he's still going to be tortured by this mini therapy session. It was a total disaster. And it was 30 minutes of hell for that mother and that kid. Anyway, on the other bench, me and my son, when they both had the tantrum, she went over there. I went over to my bench. I put my son on the bench, and he went to run back to the swing. I put my arm out. I wouldn't let him. Now, he already knew me. He knew when I said something, it was going to happen, right? So it's like, you're not getting back there. I didn't say it, but I put my arm out. So he just sat back and had a tantrum. And then here's me. I'm looking at the trees, completely ignoring him. Looking at the trees, the birds, I'm looking around. Soon as he stops the tantrum, it maybe lasted 2 minutes. And as soon as he stopped, I said, oh, y'all done? Okay, let's go back on the swing. I'm on the swing, having a great time. I ignore the crazy and I reward the calm. He learned, that's the only reason he stopped within 2 minutes. He was starting to put it together. He learned, if I stop this stupid tantrum, I'm getting back on that swing right away. because he knew me. He knew I reward the calm. So my kid's swinging for 28 minutes, having a great time. This other kid's going through hell. And his mother, she looked in worse shape than he did. It was a disaster. She looked so humiliated too, but I don't give advice unless someone asks me for it. But maybe she learned something that day. I don't know. But anyway, what a disaster. So that's how you don't handle a tantrum and how you fertilize it and feed it and make it grow. It turned into a nice, big, huge one. And then how you just completely ignore a tantrum. But it's very effective the way it's a certain way of ignoring it. I would not go on a phone and I would not get into a conversation with someone. It's important that they know you're waiting for that tantrum to end. Because as soon as it does, oh, you all done? Okay, let's go back on the swing. You reward the calm. They start to put it together. It's not going to happen the first time, probably the 50th time, but they start to figure it out. Does that make sense? That's how you handle a tantrum. Anyway. Okay. Oh, you're going to hate my answer. No, I won't even answer that one. I was going to get cheeky with it. I was going to get cheeky with it. The reason why I'm very picky about what I answer now, because there's not a great lesson. If there's no great lesson in it, like basically a lot of them, I'm just going to say, yeah, toddlers are nuts. Yeah, toddlers are nuts. Okay, I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. You know, and a really good like indicator of this is whenever I'm hired by a family and they've got older kids and a toddler, I'll just say for fun, oh, do you want to discuss the toddlers? They always go, what? Toddlers are just nuts. Anyway, and then they want to talk about the older kids. They understand the toddler. Don't try and make sense out of them. Okay, these are my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1 is child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is when you want to connect with a toddler, you enter their world. Watch how they play and join in. Don't go to the nail salon to connect with them. You go to the park and roll down the hill. They start to look at you differently. That's just the start of your leadership because you're entering their world. You're starting to get respect by playing with them in their world. Number 4 is when you want to discipline a toddler, you do so in their world. They're not about words, they're about actions. So stop with these mini therapy sessions. I know they're trendy, but they're ridiculous. Absolutely. Every time I see this, I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Use your words. Oh, gee, how patronizing is that? Use it. They are. Whining, kicking, screaming is their words. That is how they communicate. Don't patronize them by expecting them to find their inner adult. They don't have one yet. Okay, you find your inner child to deal with a toddler. You don't expect them to find their inner adult. They don't have it. Okay, because toddlers are about actions. They're not about words. And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years. In the first year, you were a potato laying on a mattress. Like they just haven't formed yet. I always call them crazy, but they just haven't developed sanity yet. So it's your expectations of toddlers are way up here. Lower them. They're just crazy. Play with them in their world. When you're disciplining them, it's consistent corrective actions, not words. And they learn through repetition. Okay. Yeah, I don't teach teaching. A huge portion of my clients are teachers, principals, daycare people, child psychologists. I couldn't do any of their jobs at all. And they struggle with parenting. It's a specialty. It's personal. Parenting's personal. The rest is a business. It's an institution. It's different. Some stuff does transfer over, but a lot doesn't. You know where I've never been hired by a youth worker. Youth workers work with troubled teenagers. That's what I did too. I've mentored troubled teens. If you can get respect with troubled, delinquent teenagers, you don't need my help. They are the PhD in all of this. Yeah, if I've ever been hired by a youth worker, they didn't own up to it. I would have known though by their vernacular what they would have said. I would have known. But yeah, I would never be hired by a youth worker. I'd be stunned. How do I enter my 17-year-old's world? Well, I'm going to tell you what I did with my own son, okay? And it might help, it might not, but yeah, I think it should help. Anyway, here's what you do. You enter their world, but they invite you. You don't just dress like them and say, yo, let's go. You know, like you wait till you're invited. Okay, here's what I did with my son. He was 14 years old, and we were like girlfriends. I mean, we told each other everything. We giggled. He was just great. And every morning I'd say, morning, sweetie. He'd say, morning, mom. You know, and we'd laugh. We had a great time. he started turning into a man. He was 15. And I remember this really clearly. One morning, I said, "Morning, sweetie." I'm a morning person, obviously. "Morning, sweetie." He turned around. He went, "Morning, mom." His face looked different. He was more serious. His voice had dropped. He's 6 feet tall. He's getting whiskers. I thought, oh my God, my girlfriend's gone. Anyway, I thought, how am I going to, he wasn't talking to me as much. I thought, how am I going to connect with this kid? He liked heavy metal music and gaming, like computer and PlayStation games. I don't like any of that stuff. So anyway, here's what I did. I thought, and you don't point that out. We used to be so close. Don't get all whiny about it. They just going to go, yeah, whatever. They're going to shut you out. Anyway, here's what I did. I sat down on the couch beside him when he was gaming, and I just had a magazine, and I'm just flipping through it, and every so often I'd look up. I made it very obvious I'm available, but I didn't say a word. Next thing you know, he's talking about the game. We're chatting. Next thing you know, he's handing me a controller. We're playing. Then he's making me a playlist, some heavy metal music he thinks I might like. And yeah, I did. I found a whole bunch I really liked. Still to this day, I still like Slipknot and NWA. They're old school, but anyway. That's because of my son. I would never in a million years have listened to that. I'm like Olivia Newton-John, Michael Jackson. That was my bit, that was my milieu. But yeah, I opened my mind to his stuff, and he was inviting me in there. Now, here's what the big mistake parents make is once they invite you in, don't use that as an opportunity to discuss and fix things. Big mistake. They'll shut that door and they'll never invite you in again. So what you do is, like, if there's something you really want to discuss with them, do not use that time to do it. Wait till you're in the car and say, "Hey, can we review something? I want to discuss this with you." But don't wreck it. Don't wreck those bonding times with your teenager by trying to work through things and all that. They're going to shut you out, guaranteed. And they won't invite you back again. How old are your kids now? I don't discuss my adult kids just because they don't choose to be on here. But I will say they're 29 and 34, and I have a little granddaughter now. So yeah, it's great. Okay. Grandparenting is exactly what I thought it was going to be. I wasn't that excited going in, and I'll tell you why. Because I have to hand them back. I loved mothering. It was the most fun I ever had in my whole life. And grandparents always say, "Oh, you get to have fun with them and hand them back." I don't want to. Like, it's like, "Oh, she's so adorable. Can I have my daughter now?" No. So, yeah, I mean, it's great, but it's not the same as parenting because I have to hand them back. How selfish am I? I mean, I just love mothering. It was the most fun I ever had in my whole life. Mothering. I loved it. Well, that's why I'm teaching it too, right? Because I get to mother all my clients. That's why I love coaching. I mother all my clients. Some of them, I used to specialize in troubled teenagers. So a lot of, and this is like 20 years ago, whatever. And a lot of my clients were older than me because they had teenagers and, anyway. So, and I always kind of felt like, and another thing that you have to do, because they're older. Whereas now I'm older than all my clients now because I'm in my 60s now. Good luck beating me in my age if you're going to hire me. Okay. So now I really feel like, I felt like I was mothering my clients before, but they didn't see me that way as much. But now, of course, it's different. Yeah. Okay. See, now I feel the same way as you do about my kids and grandkids. I wish they all lived with me. Yeah, I don't, yeah, like it's just different. I love it. I actually wouldn't want to be a mother again, but it's not the same as mothering. Like I'm too old to start again. If anything happened, I would certainly be there, but you know what I'm saying? It's not like I go, "Oh, I wish I had a brand new family again," but it's not as much fun as mothering was. I got to take them home. I had an epiphany when my son was, my first was a boy, my son, and my mom was out visiting from Canada. We lived in Australia. And I think my son was about 3 or 4 days old. And I thought, oh God, I just need a break from all this breastfeeding and, I was not getting any sleep. So I said to mom, well, let's just go down and do the groceries and I'll just get some no mom time. I wanted no mom time. This is what I was thinking, right? So my husband at the time, I just fed the baby and he's great, and I said, great, okay, I'll be back in an hour. And I remember I was walking down the aisle at the supermarket or wherever, and I stopped dead in my tracks. And my mom said, what's wrong? She thought I was going to pass out or something. And I said, oh, I get it. You can't ever get away. It's for the rest of my life now. All I wanted to do was get home to my baby. Like I couldn't leave the mom behind because you're a mom forever. Once you're a mom or a dad, you're that forever. No matter what happens, that's it. I remember that real clearly. It was like, oh, I get it. Any book recommendations for parenting toddlers? I've never read a book on parenting or kids because I'm kid taught. So I can't recommend anything. But if you are going to take advice from anybody about parenting, these are 2 criteria I would look for. Yeah, I highly recommend this. Make sure they finish the job themselves. Are their kids adults? Have they lived with teenagers? Do they know if what they're doing when their kids are little is going to backfire, or is it a good investment in tomorrow? Because a lot of what's taught now is going to backfire. I know it will. So anyway, that's one. They have to finish the job with their own kids. And plus, I didn't learn a lot with my own kids. I got respect when they were tiny and kind of sailed right through the teen years. You have to have tons of experience with tons of other kids, all different challenges, all different things. So those are 2 criteria. It's all experience-based, heavily experience-based. Degrees don't get you there. A lot of my clients have child development degrees, and they still hire me because it teaches you a lot, but parenting is different. So, okay. Okay, I'll just answer this, then I got to get going. So I've just worked out too hard today. I'm really feeling it. And I get up early in the morning and work out too. So it's stupid me. Anyway, what age was your favorite? Would you do anything differently with your children looking back? That's really interesting. I'm not one to look back and have regrets. My favorite age by far was probably the teen years, by far. I just found it fascinating. And because we had respect, so I didn't have problems. And looking back, do I regret anything? I could pick and choose and probably find a couple things, but overall, no, nothing. I didn't miss anything. I was there for everything. So yeah, no, nothing. I really wallowed in it. And, a lot of people say, oh, I wish I could go back and do this and that. I'm happy with what I did. Both my kids have said that they wanted to parent the way I raised them. I'm pretty happy with the way things went. And would I do anything differently? No. I'd really have to search to figure something out, but no. Because any small thing I did wrong, I don't believe in perfection. Like if I messed up, I was very quick to apologize and make amends to my kids. So even if I did mess up with something, I was very quick. Like I never yelled or anything. But if I was running late or something, if I did something, then I made it up to them. So I kind of feel, I'm at peace with what I did. I'm quite happy with it. You don't aim for perfection. Life's messy, you're going to make mistakes. That's part of it. You don't want to try and look perfect. I've met people in my life who try and look perfect, and they're always trying to impress other people. They're probably the most boring people that you'll ever meet in your whole life. It's our vulnerability, it's our flaws that make us likable. And so I think a sense of humor for sure. I had a lot of fun with my kids. I remember, and each child is different too. You got to parent them a little bit differently. Like at same rules, they all had the same chores and that. But a good example of this was I used to torture my son virtually. I would hide under his bed, grab his ankles when he walked by. I mean, I really teased the heck out of him. But he grew up and he got really good at that stuff. So it was karma. I got paid back for that big time. And I couldn't even complain about it because I did it to him. I used to hide behind, in the pantry and that. And he says he was terrified. He'd go to the pantry like this, terrified I'd be standing behind it like this. But I never did that to my daughter, not once, not ever. She hated that stuff. So they're all a little bit different. See, I like that stuff, so I did it to my son. And then my daughter, when she was little, I realized pretty quick she doesn't like that. So I couldn't do that with her. So you have to be different with each kid too. They all have different personalities. So yeah, my son got real good at that stuff. Okay, I got to get going. I wore myself out today, so I got to get going. I'm going to get to bed really early tonight. So if you want to check out the link above, you can see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course. That's all about you, by the way. It's not about your kids. And remember, we're never fixing kids. We're teaching parents here. You lead, they will follow. It's a natural instinct. And you're not a leader. They're going to be very vulnerable out there in the world. They're going to be very susceptible to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians, they're going to go searching out a leader elsewhere if you're not that at home. If you are the leader at home, they're going to come home and tell you everything. They just can't help themselves because they look up to you, right? That's what you want. You don't want fear-based parenting where they're afraid of you. You want them to say, oh, I can't wait to tell mom. I remember once my kids, I think it was my daughter, she goes, nothing's happened until I've told you. Like, it was like, it's so important to tell me everything. And that's what you want. You want them to come to you. You're a safe place to land. Leadership is a really loving place to come from because your goal is for them to like themselves. It's not about impressing them and them being afraid of you. It's nothing like that. Your goal as a leader, parent, is for your children to really like themselves. And if you're the source of that, they're going to think you're great too. See what I mean? Your focus is on their self-esteem. It's everything. Kids with high self-esteem, they're very respectful. It just all happens organically. Anyway, the boot camp course tells you that. Coaching, of course, is the next level up. So the free behavior board, though, you can check that out if they're 3 and above, or the boot camp course is the next level, then coaching is the top level. So coaching is very personal. It's very different. I am often hired by friends or family because they'll say, oh, I got this coach, it's going well. And then a family will buy me too, like buy sessions too. And they'll compare notes and they're completely different. They'll say, have you actually got the same Lisa that I have? But it's personal. I have to, I get to know you and I get to find your strengths and your weaknesses and I work with them. And, so anyway, it was quite funny how sometimes I'll get people to compare notes. They say, yes, why are you so different with them? I say, I give them what they need. I give you what you need. So anyway, that's coaching. Anyway, okay, I have to get going. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow for my regularly scheduled lives. In the meantime, happy parenting. Bye now.